Hi guys, this is Lars Kilholt. I will be doing a couple of tutorials specifically with the Behringer X32 together with Presonus Studio One. I do apologize if my language skills is somewhat inadequate. I am Danish and English is my second language. So I have been missing a couple of tutorials on the YouTube, and that's why I've decided to make them myself. What we have here is the big X32. What we'll be going through here is exactly the same as if you have the producer or the compact or the rack or the core or even the Midas M32. So the techniques used here are exactly the same. You can also see my MacBook Pro. It is installed with Studio One version 2.64. More importantly, the firmware of the X32 is 2.10. That is quite important as Behringer have been moving quite a bit around with stuff in the setup menus and so on. If you run a Macintosh computer, you will not need to download any drivers for setting up recording with the X32, as X32 supports Mac's core audio driver. If you are on a Windows system, you will have to download the appropriate driver for the XUF card or the XUF USB card. You can find that on Behringer.com. First we'll have to set up the recording interface to send out the audio. What you do is press the routing button here, and you go to the card out page. What you can see here is that outputs 1 through 8 comes from local 1 to 8. This means that the local preamps on the back of the console will be sent directly to the card out for channels 1 through 8. And for 9 to 16 and 17 to 24 and 25 to 32. That is pretty standard, and it will work in this case as we will be using the built-in preamps. If you are on a if you're using the S16 stage boxes, then you would want to go to AES50A 1 through 8, 9 through 16, 24, 7 to 24, and 25 to 32, like this. Provided that you are using the A port on the back of the console, of course. You have the different other options here, and we will come back to using card here later, but right now we'll go back to local for all 32 channels. Next, what you want to do is you go to the setup menu. You will have to check that the sample rate here is what you want under the global fan. You can choose between 44.1 and 48 kilohertz. I have a hard time hearing the difference, but the important thing is that this is the same as you would set in the Studio One software. So next you would want to go to card over here and set what you want here. If you are having the XUF recording interface, you have the option to choose between Firewire and USB, and then you have option to choose whether you want 32 in and 32 out, or for other limited edition, you could call that. in my experience, the USB works very stable, and for 32 channels. So, and I have been recording quite a lot with this console. So I should say, at least 100 hours I have been recording, and sometimes I record 32 tracks constantly in 4 hours or more. So it is quite stable. I have not had a single dropout in doing so. So that's fine. So this is actually what needs to be done on the console, and we'll have to go on to configuring Studio One. All right, moving over here to Studio One. I have just launched the program, and as you can see here under the setup, it says built-in output. It could say a lot of other things here, but depending on what you have on interfaces in your computer. But what we want to do here is we want to change. I choose, you didn't see that. I choose configure audio device, and then from the menu here I choose XUF. It could also be XUSB if you have a console with the XUSB card. And then you have some considerations here. If you just want to record and not send anything back to the console live, then you should set device block settings here as high as possible. I nearly always use 4096. What that does is that it puts lower or takes fewer resources from the computer. But if you want to use Studio One as an effects processor, you need to set this as low as possible, because it will drastically influence the latency. That means the time it takes from the signal to go through the console to the computer and back again. You can see here, if I set this to 32 samples, I get a calculated latency of 3.7 milliseconds. That is very low. But in reality, I cannot expect my dated computer here, it's from 2011, to be able to handle at least not 32 tracks. And if I have to use Studio One as an internal effects processor, it has to be on a very limited number of tracks. So for this example, we set it as high as possible, and we press OK. It's below what you can see here, but it's right down here. Then we choose create new song. I will show you how to make a template, or at least update a template here, to make this a lot easier. The next time you are going to do that, you have up here styles, interfaces, user. I will choose interfaces, and I will have to cheat. Cheating is allowed, because I will go down here and choose the built-in template for the Studio Live 32.4.2. That makes things a lot easier, because you can see when I press OK here, we have a ready template with 32 channels and a main left-right, which we don't need because X32 does not support recording more than 32 tracks. So I delete that one. Oh, where is it? Where is it? Remove track here. What you can see now here is that you have all 32 tracks, and you have the mixer down here. What you should do is you should separate a recording template from finished work, so we just leave the mixer down here. What you might want to do is to turn off the monitoring, because this will actually, the recording button here will arm the track for recording, but it will actually send the audio back to the console. Now we do not need that for simple recording. So I choose one channel here, press shift, then all are marked, and then I press the monitoring button, and monitoring is turned off. What we should check here is that if you go to, I have a shortcut on this, so I cannot remember where it is. It is the preferences. We go to song setup. It is again a button you cannot see. It is right below here. It says song setup. Then you should check that all inputs are mapped correctly. That means that channel 1 is mapped to input 1, and so on and so forth. That also applies for outputs, especially if you're going to play your songs back into the mixer. It looks quite nice. So that is fine, that is good. What you can do here, again I press the OK button here that is below your screen, down here. What you can do is that if you, like me, always use the same channels for the same stuff, you can name them here. I always use channel 1 for kick, and then I press tap, snare, tap, hi-hat. Oh, goes well for me here. Hat, and then tom 1, tom tone. You get the picture. You can name all your channels here as you would name the scribble strips on the X32. That kind of make things easier. But it's not a must. You can do it if you want, and you can leave it if you don't. But you should, when this is done, save this as a template. And you do that by pressing File and Save as Template. Alright? And then you give it a name. You could call it X32 Studio 1 32 channels template. Press OK. You should also, of course, check that things work. You can see here, down here, I have a microphone connected to channel 22, and you see very slight input here. Now I tap it. Oh yes, things are working. And I'm confident that all these channels will receive input when I connect some things to the local preamps. So we have saved this as a template, and this means that things are easier the next time you're going to do this. I close this song, and I know I really don't want to save any changes. I have saved everything as a template, so for now I don't want to save it. So the next time you open Studio One, it will look like this. Maybe it will say something else here than XUF, and then you again press Configure Audio Device and choose XUF as your interface. Then you choose Create a New Song. But instead of just choosing Empty Song or the Studio Live template here, you go to the User pane, and you should see somewhere here X32 Studio One 32 channels template. That's the one we just made. Press OK, press record, and you are good to go. This will continue recording until you stop it or until you run out of space. One very neat feature here is that you can actually, we are at the card out pane here, but you can go back to the home pane and you can see here that inputs 1 through 32 is coming from the local preamps. If you, for example, wants to use Studio One as an effects processor, for example, you can do that by changing local 25 to 32 to, for example, card 25 to 32. This means that when you put something in, for example, channel 25 on the back of the console, the audio will go directly to the card, and it will go to the computer and be processed in Studio One, and then returned to the same channel, to the same input on the console. So that is quite neat if you want effects that you're not able to get from the built-in effects in the X32. What we need to do here is again create a new song, and I'll choose the template we created before. But then we have to change the block sizes, and I go to Preferences. I know this looks a little bit different in the Windows versions, but you will find it if you look. And I'll have to set this to a much lower value. I would say 128, maybe 256 will work in reality, without you getting a lot of complaints from the musicians that they feel a lack in the signal. So you can see here the 128 will give us a latency of 8 milliseconds. That is acceptable. Again, I press the OK button that is below the screen, you can see. But the template we created before is only recording, it is not sending anything back. So I need to configure that. And actually, as this is done on the X32 in blocks of 8, I need to turn on monitoring for all 8 channels. Regardless if you are using effects on, for example, channel 28 or not, you need to turn on monitoring, or else the signal will not be sent back to the X32. So in this case, I have a microphone connected to channel 25, and we should actually be able to hear it now. Oh yes. So you can now add effects to that channel, and let's see, where is it here? My normal template is a bit different. Here you have the inserts, and I press B for browser, and effects that we want to use. For this example, I just choose this groove delay for you to see that it works. I simply drop it here, and success. So that is pretty much it. Thank you for watching. I'll probably do a couple of other tutorials, especially if you like this one. Thanks for watching.